Jaguar's XKSS supercar icon, created in 1957 as a roadster conversion of the D-Type Le Mans winning legend. Just 16 were sold. Today they're worth millions. 9 others were destroyed in a factory fire. Now finally, their time has come. Project XKSS is back on. Join me, Mark Evans, behind the scenes as the missing big cats are born again. Back from paint, the supercar now needs soft furnishings. Time for some tailor-made trim. After 2 weeks at the paint shop, the XKSS is back with the build team.
Looks good. It's very good.
That's really looking great, man. Fantastic.
It certainly is, but there's loads more work to do on this car, so protecting this perfect paint finish is now a big priority.
The reason we've been waiting for this special tape is because this is proven up to about 6 weeks to not affect the paintwork at all. So if you use masking tape or anything, it could affect the paint because it's still quite fresh.
So let me give you a sense of the current state of play. As you can see, we have 2 cars in build at the moment. Our car, car 1, is all covered up now because they're terrified of damaging the paintwork, and rightly so. This is a £1 million car after all. But car 2 is also here. It's ready to go to paint, but they're keeping it here because it's now acting as a kind of template for all the fiddling and fettling of the parts that they are fitting to car 1, because to do that on car 1 painted would be an absolute disaster if they put a scratch in it. When the unsold D-Type race cars were converted to XKSS Roadsters back in 1957, one of the major modifications was the addition of a conventional full-width windscreen. The aluminium frame has been reverse-engineered and remanufactured by the metalworkers that built the body shell. But the team at Jaguar hasn't been able to find anyone to chrome plate such a big and complex piece to the quality required for this £1 million supercar. So they've decided to make the frame out of a different metal that's less of a problem to chrome.
Now this one's made out of brass instead of aluminium. We'll see how it goes. It's only a trial one.
I don't know whether you want to clear them out with a drill or...
There's quite a bit more fettling to be done, but it is looking the part.
We'll get all the drilling done before we get it to chrome.
There's also tweaking to be done on the transmission tunnel.
So we're going to modify that vertical line, basically we measure the line of where the hole ends. We're going to go 20 millimetres, 45-degree joggle in by 12 millimetres, flat of 20 millimetres, and you'll put a fixing down that edge.
The tunnel needs to be completed before the seat bases can be signed off. This is such a delicate process because now this car is painted, every time these guys try and fit a panel in here, they've got to be conscious of all the edges, and these are quite big panels for this tunnel, that they don't scratch anything, because trying to repaint the inside of this car will be an absolute nightmare. So everything is done very slowly and carefully. Now that the final position of the transmission tunnel has been set, the seats can be tailor-made to fit the cockpit.
I've hand-built these phones. Obviously we've got no pattern, so I've had to take some rough measurements, rough sizes, put them on some wooden bases, and now we're trying them in the car.
In terms of making these up, how did you get to the point where you actually had a foam like that?
That's what we're doing. We had the original seats from the original car, and I took a rough profile from it, so we got the right depth, the right height.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was the material they used in the 50s? Was it foam?
Probably like a Dunlopillar, they used to call it, and that had like a core through it. So it was foam, but with like holes running through it to give it the comfort.
Right.
So it's very basic in them days. But
So is there a bit of a frustration in your mind? Because if you trim this car the way you would want to trim it, where it would be absolutely perfect, it would look too good for 1957?
When we first done a mock-up, a temporary cushion, somebody actually said that to me. It looks too good. We need to take a backward step and try and make it look sympathetically like a vintage car.
Okay, so the job today is, because we now know that this side of the tunnel is correct.
Yep.
That's the finished position. So
Yep.
you can now actually
Finalise the profile.
of this
Yep.
to actually make the seat.
That's correct.
Okay. Rather than use the very best quality leather that you might find in a modern luxury motor like a Bentley or Bugatti, Ted has carefully selected authentic-looking hides to match the look and feel of the leather used on the original XKSS supercars. The cutting patterns are unique to this individual XKSS. Ted trained as an apprentice with Jaguar and has been trimming cars for the best part of 50 years. Today he only works on bespoke special projects. Spray adhesive is used to bond leather to foam. It only sticks when the two surfaces make contact. It takes Ted 5 days to make a pair of seats. The seat back or squab will be finished off when it's fitted to the car. One down, one to go. It's week 5 of the build, and the team is desperate for parts.
Right, we've got 8 XKSS wheels, 2 doors, 1 boot lid, 1 oil tank, 1 dash set, and all hinges and fixings. They all look present and correct. It's getting a little bit more frantic, but they just sign for those and send them on the way.
The parts shelves here at Jaguar are really starting to fill up after a lot of effort, I have to say. It's been one of the big challenges of this project. But look at the stuff that's coming in. A whole set of dash panels. This caught my eye. The bonnet belt and buckle, leather and brass, very original. Lovely, iconic 3-spoke steering wheel, but this is the piece down here. It's one of the smallest pieces of the car, but I would argue the most important. I tell you what, this project is properly coming alive. Chris can now test fit the dash and gauges. They've been remanufactured by specialists in Wales. Even the needles have been colour matched with those on the original cars.
We just want to make sure that the gauges do fit into the apertures correctly.
And they do. It's all going like clockwork. While work continues on car 1, Ted turns his tailoring talents to crafting a soft top hood for it, using the second unpainted car as a template.
Just trying to get a centre running through the hood frame. Because the car's offset, it's not a symmetrical car, one side's wider than the other. But I'm trying to find a centre line running through the hood so that when I pattern it up, I can flip the patterns over from one side to the other to try and make it as symmetrical as I can.
That is really asymmetrical. It is so obvious when you look from the front.
You wouldn't really want to sit there driving if it was a left-hand drive, would you?
Well, there are no, of course there are no
you
left-hand
can't
drives, convert no. This car to left-hand drive because I mean most were sold into the States.
That's right.
But they had to be right-hand drive because you've got the oil capture tank and everything there. You simply couldn't convert it. And you'll put your zip in this window.
They do want a zip in it, yeah.
Right, but that wouldn't have been there originally.
As far as I know, there was no zip. They had hoods on the first few cars, but I understand that one of the drivers, he became asphyxiated and had to pull over and was like throwing up. So they decided not to, because obviously with the petrol filler there inside the cab, I'm assuming all the fumes were inside and there's no way for them to get out. So there is a little story in a magazine about that, and how true it is, I don't know.
Odd place for a fuel cap, I know, but then the XKSS started life as a roofless race car. It'll take Ted a week to cut out and stitch a magnificent mohair roof. He'll do a final fitting right at the end of the build. So, what next?
We need to get the screen back, get it chromed, get it painted, get it fitted on the car, get a windscreen fitted, wipers installed on the car, get all the gauges in the car, get it wired, and then get the final trim in there and the hood on. Sounds easy, doesn't it?
No, not really. Pretty much every component on this car has been specially made and many need fettling by hand to fit. The assembly is turning out to be much more labour intensive than anyone at Jaguar expected. So what about the deadline? It is looming like a large dark thundercloud bearing down upon us. The pressure is on. That first car needs to be pretty much assembled within 2 weeks, and my honest view at the moment is I don't think they're going to achieve it. All blinged up, but not yet ready to go. The clock's ticking, and they're running out of time.
It's getting very close to the wire, yes.